Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 1973-76 off-season look. And tonight we're going to begin looking at our keepers. Not the keepers, but the waivers. We have been looking at the carry-on players, the 12 players currently on the team. Then we've evaluated 4 more guys they want to keep. So the other 4 players that they add to the roster will have to come out of free agency, rookie class, guys on waivers, pulling guys out of retirement. So tonight we're going to look at the waiver class. And the way this works is every team put 2 men on waivers in the offseason from 72 to 73. That's 2 per team. That's 64 guys. Have to have a card in the year 1, meaning that it's the next year. And if you're on waivers, you're probably in decline anyway. So you have to have a card in that year 1. If you have cards in the following years, it's just a bonus. Don't have to have cards in those years. We have a tally at the very bottom. Obviously, in year 73, you're going to have 64. Then it drops off significantly. You only have 30 more of those waivered cards playing, then 20, and then finally 14 in years 73 through 76. So in this analysis, I'm going to bring up Baseball Reference. I'm actually going to be looking at just the 73 cards, and I've already done the analysis for the 74, 5, and 6. If there's a vacant spot, the card doesn't exist. If it's gray, it means the card exists, and I made it black if I thought the card was pretty decent. So the first card I'm going to look at for my 73 stack is Dale Maxwell. He's a 2 shortstop, and he does the same thing in 74 he does in 73. Doesn't really matter. He's a 2 shortstop who hits under 200. So we want him for his defense. I'm not going to highlight that because I know that's what I get anyway. Though we'd like 74. He actually gets on base a little bit more. Next player, Fred Stanley, participates in all 4 of the years. You see that? But in 76, he hits 261. He hits 212 in 73. I'm going to ignore that. I'm not going to X any of the waivered years out because the card exists. I'm only going to highlight if I feel that that card is very good. Next guy, Mike Andrews. And he hit 220 in 72. Now he's hitting 200 with no power. Not much to talk about there. Next player is Casanova. He's got a +2 arm, and he's hitting 216. Nothing to highlight there. Tom Hutton's got a card in all 4 years. He is 01 in 76. Let's take a look at Tom Hutton. So the 1 defense at first base is pretty intriguing. Love to have that. I know Las Vegas loves defense. So 76, he's got a interesting split that makes it look not so bad against righties. He'll hit 309 in 77. So you might want to secure him on your team now and then improve him next year to his 309 card. In 73, he hits 263, and that is actually worth highlighting. So we're going to highlight both of these cards. This one for defense, this one for a little more offense. Next player is Baylor Moore. He's got a 4.50 ERA. At this point, he's what you call a lefty who gets lefties out. Does a reasonable job of it, too. I'm not going to highlight it, though. It's, you know. The thing with lefty relievers, you always get eyeballs on lefty relievers. So I'm looking for lefty relievers who actually stand out in the crowd. Next player is Steve Blass, and he frankly is terrible with a 9.81 ERA. Shouldn't have printed that card. Shouldn't have even given him waivers. Should have just pushed him into retirement, but we didn't. Next guy, John Stevenson. His average drops 30 points. He loses power. Still a good bat handler. Nothing special with him either. And so, of 8 potential players, you see only 1 looks good in 73. And there's a couple guys who look good in the future, which is very unusual. Normally, your first year placed on waivers, is your most effective, but not with that. We're going to take a look at half the waiver pool, which will be 32 cards. So we'll move on to the next group of 8. Ted Martinez, pretty reasonable 73. Let's look at his numbers down on Baseball Reference. I like this 73 card enough to suggest it should probably be the one they choose. 255, 602, but he has versatility. He could play the outfield also. Interesting. Second and third, he's a 3. And play the outfield, it's 255. So I'm going to highlight that year because the rest of it's pretty bad. Late in 77 and beyond will be better, but right now I'm going to highlight 73. We'll just do simple as doing that. Bill Stoneman is done. He's past his prime. 6.77 ERA. Bill Parsons, likewise, 6.94 ERA. These guys were granted waivers as a courtesy. Mind you, we thought there'd be a huge drop-off once 72 ends because a lot of players are going to exit the game. It's the 4th year after the expansion, and Major League Baseball is looking for another jolt. They'll get it in the year 73 when the designated hitter is announced. Then the next 4 years, and then they need another jolt, and that's the expansion in 77 of Seattle and Toronto. Then another 4 years, and there's another labor contract, and there's a strike in 1981. So Major League Baseball, from my timeline from 1969 to 1984, that's 16 years, every 4 years, something of significance occurs in the roster shaping. Next guy, Cecil Upshaw. I'm looking at the card with a 4.93 ERA and no thank you. Glenn Beckert. Let's take a look at Glenn. He is probably out of Chicago by now. Just a 10-year career. I thought he played there longer than that, but... So his last year in Chicago, he's hitting 255. Then he has a couple more years. Still a 3 in 73. Not so much in 74 as defense gets worse. So I'm going to highlight that. And reason, the defense. Don't want him as a 4 in this year. Want him as a 3 in that year. Then we have Jim Hickman, who's got a nice, reasonable 73 at 244 with plenty of walks. Power against righties, not lefties. I'm going to leave this alone. I'm not going to highlight it because he doesn't have any other cards available. So it's either you take that card or you don't. So I'm just going to skip further analysis and move along. Stan Bonson converts to a reliever and has a really nice 76. Is his starting in 73 worth the trouble? Well, he pitches 282 innings with a 357 earned run average. As a starter, 7, but the White Sox put him on waivers. The card doesn't look that bad. I'm going to highlight that because what happens is it's his last good year as a starter. Then he has these 2 middling years. Then he converts to a nice reliever. So you got your choice of how you want to work him. Barry Lersch is a 4.41 ERA. He is just a guy, as we like to say. And that is a quarter of our waiver list. We're going to take the next 8. Jack Aker is getting knocked around. 4.08 ERA is being kind. It's not going to work for him. Bobby Tolan, 2.06 and 73. He alternates bad with the good. So bad 73, good 74, bad 75, good 76. But you got 2 choices with him, which is good news. Ray Lamb had a nice year with Cleveland as a righty who could get lefties out. Still does that. Intriguing card. I am going to highlight it. I don't normally do that with guys with ERAs above 4. But the reasoning is, with this card, he is a righty reliever who gets lefties out fairly well. And a relief 4. And isn't horrible against righties. He pitches better than his 4.60 ERA, while Jack Aker pitches worse than his 4.08 ERA by comparison. Next up, Duke Sims. And finally, he's mortal and less than that. Yeah, 73 will be the last good. Well, it's not even that good a year. It's 245. I'm going to highlight it, and the reason I'm going to highlight it is as a one-way player, he's a left-handed hitting catcher with power. That's what you want. He's got a homer on 5. He's got a column of hits. He's got a walks on 6 and 5 and 9. The walks give him a reasonable on base, and that's why we'll highlight that card. Mike Corkins, 4.50 ERA, but just the opposite of Ray Lamb. He can't get lefties out, and anytime I see a righty who gets lit up by lefties, unless you're dynamite versus righties, you're not going to get into the league. Terry Crowley, 208. No, the only good year as a pinch hitter he has in this 4-year frame is 75. Joe Coleman, a shocking development that he'd be on waivers. And 73 is the card to go for. Matter of fact, I should probably even just give it a little bit more emphasis, because he's a starter with a 3.53 ERA and may very well be the best waivered card in the set thus far. Let's take a closer look at Joe Coleman for a second. And he really starts to struggle now once you get beyond 72. He's an all-star in 72 with a 2.80 ERA and a 1.16 whip. He will never get those numbers again until a roll in the bullpen in 77 comes along. But in 73, he has a 1.30 whip. So that's not that bad a deal compared to the rest of his career. So that's why we're highlighting 73. Tom Timmerman, just a guy, yeah, he had a nice 72, but in 73, nothing special there. All right, we'll take a look at 8 more players, then pause it for tonight. And now we see that in this group, there's hardly any future. It's all in 73. Felipe Alou, corner outfielder versus lefties only, and he hits 236. That's not going to work. Steve Arlen was selected for Florida as somebody the Padres did not protect, that's a little scary when you realize the Padres are also an expansion team. The Marlins took leftovers from the Padres because he could pitch on 3 days rest. He cannot do that anymore, and his ERA is above 5. I think his usefulness is no longer. Gene Alley can't pick it at short anymore. He's a 4, and he's hitting 203. Not a good look for him. Bob Johnson. There's a reason that this is why these guys are on waivers, folks. We're just trying to look for an occasional diamond in the rough, and frankly, it might very well just be that Joe Coleman probably should have been protected by somebody on somebody's keeper list, and he's not. So someone will jump on him to be a number 3 or 4 starter so far. Otherwise, it's pretty ordinary here on waivers. Big game Bob Johnson's a relief 3 with a 3.62 ERA. Unfortunately, he gives up a lot of home runs to lefties. A 5 and a 6. That is not going to play well in this league. Cannot highlight that kind of long ball availability there. Horace Clark's a 4 at second base, but he hits 263 in a full season. God, I hate the 4 defense at second, but you know what? When you look at everything else about the guy, I'm going to highlight it. And the reason is, as a 4, that's what I don't like. However, everything else, he's a B bunter, B hit and runner, C stealer, a 15 base runner. He draws walks. He's split evenly between lefties and righties. It's a 263 card, and he's got 637 plate appearances. So maybe your team doesn't want him to be your everyday second baseman, but he should get a job in the league somewhere. And then we ed Kirkpatrick. Now he is in all 4 years. Very versatile player. Left-handed hitting first base, catcher, and the outfield normally. By 75-76, he's pretty pretty lackluster. 74 is still good. And in 73, he's hitting 263 with the Royals. He's a 3 in the outfield. He's a 0-arm catcher. That's interesting, instead of being a plus. Has power versus righties, so I'm going to highlight that as well. This gives teams a chance to compare the two cards. Which one do you want? Do you want one with a little more defense? Do you want one with a 2-year deal? So you've got your chance. Plus, it might be a case where a team has only 1 year of availability left. It's either 73 or 74. They find that Kirkpatrick is good in both, so he fits in whichever year they need. So that's pretty. That versatility we appreciate. A couple more cards will get us halfway through to 32. A couple more cards will get us halfway through to 32. And we have Mick Kelleher. And I'm going to highlight him for one reason. He's a 2 shortstop. Every 2 shortstop will be highlighted. He hits 184. 38 at-bats. Some walks on his card against righties. He's got a good 76. Maybe you get him simply because he can play defense for you in year 1, and then you still have a futures for him in 76. And the 32nd player today, and then we'll call it and resume the last half next week. Frank Lindsay, nice reliever. Let's bring him up for a second. Lindsay's been around a long time now, from 1963 to 1974. So he has some nice years here in the 60s for the Giants. Rookie of the Year, 3rd in Rookie of the Year. 67, he's got a .51 ERA. Look at these low whips here. 68. By the time the 70s roll around, he starts to lose it a little bit. His career is done by 74, but when he finishes his career, the numbers aren't that bad. His ERA is consistently under 4. His lifetime ERA is 2.85. That's pretty respectable. So the 73 Lindsay, it's a 141 whip. It is the highest whip, but he had 70 wasn't particularly good either. Or 69. It's not out of the ordinary. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to highlight it because I've seen this guy in our leagues for many different cards. And it's reasonable to assume that he gets in with one more year. Again, it's a 3.57 ERA in 63 innings. And he's not that bad against righties. He kind of gets righties out. So we'll highlight it. Again, it's a waiver list. I mean, I'm not highlighting it because I think he's a keeper. I'm trying to, find, where the rose-colored glass is and find some optimism with some of these players who are on the edge of the league. And frankly, we need these guys. These guys a lot of these guys who seem like the stats I'm talking are pretty bad, they're going to be in the league anyway because there's only so much talent available. We have a 32-team league. Major League Baseball only has 24 teams in it. It's kind of like this until we get a bigger talent pool. In 77 when Seattle and Toronto come into existence. I'm also looking at the notion, too, that, we're using the original first editions of 73 and 74. There's a reprint of 75. There's probably more reprints. But when you get a reprint, you usually get more cards per team. You get like 27 per team instead of 24 per team. That overage is, very important. Here's a example. We could take a peek out of 275s. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at, say, the 75 Cincinnati Reds for a moment. They won the World Series, so we could see their 20 guys here with that. Now, In the expansion version of them, they have Billingham, Bourbon, Carroll, Darcy. Billingham, Bourbon, Darcy. So they added Clay Carroll. Clay Carroll's not here in that part unless he's listed as an extra player. So he's an extra player there. See if I can get this to zoom a little bit for you. All right. Billingham, Bourbon, Carroll, Darcy, Eastwick, Gullett, Kirby, McEnany, Nolan, and Norman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Do they have the extra players listed here? Because there should be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, the Giants have 27 guys. Let's count the Reds again. Oh, I forgot to count the outfielders. So it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's 24. Where are the rest of the Reds at, though? That's interesting. Huh. If you look at the Giants, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21. I guess they have 25. I think in the reprints, they usually have 27 per team. So this is like this particular reprint isn't the most recent one. The most recent reprints they do will have 27 per team. That's not here on this particular roster page. So that'll do it for the look at the waivered players. 32 of them. We'll look at the next 32 next week. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll see you then.